Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial Minutes. I'm so happy you're all here with me today, and I'm going to be talking about how I became confident. Now, a lot of people see confidence as a trait, but confidence is actually a skill, and I'm going to go through some things today which have helped me to become more confident in certain areas of my life. Confidence means being sure of yourself and your abilities, and it's a little bit different from being arrogant, which people often confuse it with, which means you're almost thinking that you're superior to others and you're better at them than something else. Now, confidence just means you know that you're capable of achieving whatever you want to do, whatever skill you're trying to do. So, for me in public speaking, I tell myself I'm confident because I know that I can speak well and I can speak to a camera. But that doesn't mean that I'm always confident when I start videos. Now, for a video like today, it took me honestly 3 hours to say, okay, I'm going to go and do it because I'm still new at this kind of solo podcast thing. Obviously, I've been doing my podcast for 2 years now, but I've always had a guest. And so to kind of come onto camera and speak directly at a camera for 10, 15 minutes, I still struggle with. That doesn't mean I'm not a confident speaker. It just means my confidence isn't always up when I'm about to do these videos. And here are a couple of things I remind myself of when I'm going to film a video. One, I've done it before, so I can do it again. Two, starting is the hardest part. Three, I know that at the end of it, I'm going to feel so much better. And four, achieving a hard thing, even if it isn't 100%, is always better than not doing it at all. But today, what I really want to talk about is how confidence is a skill and it isn't a trait. Now, a trait is something like, I have brown eyes or I'm 5'5" or whatever it may be. And that is something I cannot change. A lot of the time, people say, look, I'm just not a confident person. But you can be a confident person. Definitely, your experiences will impact your confidence if you've had some bad ones. But vice versa, if you've had some good ones, it can also change the way you look at your confidence levels. Now, what I mean by that is if you haven't been confident to do a certain thing before, then you could do it again and that could completely change the narrative. Now, it's very easy to say, oh, well, you should just try something and then you'll suddenly be confident at it. And that's actually not true. I think you need to try something several times in order for you to feel more confident every single time. So, my conclusion is just start. Now, I'm going to talk around this in a kind of content way because a lot of people have been messaging me saying they have a message they want to share or they have a product they want to share, but they're just not confident to start. Now, what I will say is the first time I recorded a podcast, I was petrified. If you look back at my videos, my confidence has increased in doing these podcasts, and also my skills have increased in doing these podcasts. But the only way that they have increased and the only way I've grown my confidence is by continually doing them every single week. Now, doing something repetitively creates a habit. And when you start creating habits that stick and last, you start identifying yourself in those particular ways. So when I started my podcast, I knew I was someone who wasn't scared to speak to new people. So I just took that and I was like, okay, I'm not scared to speak to new people when I meet them. So when I do a podcast, why should it be any different? And I guess if you're trying to create content or you're wanting to be a content creator or you're new in this industry, just start by recording a video or start by recording an audio, whatever it may be. And how I used to do it initially was I'm going to record this video. I'm not going to release it because no one needs to see it and no one knows I'm going to do it. So if I don't release this video, it's okay. And I must have practiced 5, 6 times in front of a camera before I actually went ahead and recorded a podcast. I think it's really, really important to kind of build small habits and kind of create content just for you so you don't have that pressure externally, which is what a lot of people suffer with. A lot of people only see the times I've been successful, but I've been rejected so many times in this space. Loads of people haven't replied to my DMs. Loads of people have cancelled on me last minute. Loads of people have said they're not interested in my podcast. Loads of people said they don't want to sponsor my podcast. And that's totally fine. And I have to remember that in order to succeed, you have to fail. And that's the number one thing that really helps me to become confident as well, because every successful person has told you a million times how they failed. They may not have told you during their journey because it's quite difficult to process and also then to explain in a video, but they have failed several times. And the only thing that's kept them going is knowing that they're going to get to that destination in the end. Now, how I kind of define this is you need to understand your pain point. Why aren't you confident and what's the gain? So, for example, let's just talk around this content creator example. I don't feel confident to record a video, but I want to help XXX, or I want to grow my business by whatever it may be. You need to make sure that that output outweighs the fear of you being confident to start. So if you're so fearful and that outweighs the outcome, then you're always going to be nervous and you're always going to be scared. But if you remind yourself of the value, if you remind yourself of the goal, then starting isn't so hard because you know you've got an end in mind. And this is a reminder that when you start something new, you're never going to be the best at it. No one was born to be so successful. No one was born with all of these skills. Yes, we all have our own talents, but you still have to work incredibly hard to make sure that you're the best. A lot of people message me and they say, Shivani, well, have you always been so confident? And yes, I would say as a child, I was a little bit shy when I was younger, but generally I have been really confident because I was raised around really confident people myself. But what people don't know is there's loads of areas of my life that I'm not so confident in. I can speak publicly and I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to jump on a camera and speak on a podcast. But if you ask me to sing, for example, I am petrified. And I've been singing for years now, and I'm still scared to sing in front of other people, even if it's my parents. And here's the thing. If you look at someone and you're thinking, wow, they're so confident in their field, I guarantee you that there's loads of areas where they don't feel so confident, but they still identify themselves as a confident person because that's who they believe they truly are. And that brings me on to my next point, which I've touched on earlier, which is identity. It's very easy to feed yourself the same message that you've been feeding yourself for however many years because you identify as that person. So if I'm going to constantly say I'm not confident and I don't believe that I've been confident for the last 29 years of my life, and I'm going to consistently say that, well, I'm just not a confident person, so I can't do that, then guess what? I'm not going to be confident ever going forward. And I've mentioned confidence is a skill. So I'm not asking you to stand in front of the mirror and say these 10 affirmations to yourself about how you're confident, how you're amazing. I'm asking you to take a little bit of a step in order to change that narrative. In order for us to see significant change, we need to change our attitudes and we need to change our behaviors. So instead of saying, I'm just not confident at all, make a list of the areas in your life which you do feel confident and start to say, okay, I'm really confident in these areas and I learned how to be confident in these areas because I did X, Y, and Z. Or you could also say, I'm not confident in these areas yet. And the way I'm going to become confident in these areas is by doing X, Y, and Z. This is really helpful because it already helps you to identify your strengths. And I talk loads around strengths-based leadership, but the key thing to understand is there are areas of your life that you're confident in. And it may not be all of your areas of your life, but there are some areas of life that you do feel confident in. And once you identify how and why you got there, you can apply that same formula to the rest of your areas that you don't feel so confident in. The number one thing that really helps me in all areas of my life is reminding myself that I am in charge. So previously when I would say, I don't have time to do this, start to change the narrative to be like, I choose the way I spend my time. Therefore, I am choosing not to do this. It's not that I don't have the time, it's that I'm not choosing to do it. And that's the same in all parts of our life. So if you say to yourself, I'm not confident in anything, then you're choosing not to be confident in anything. Because by starting, you're already starting that journey on how you can be more confident. Repetition is so important because you probably don't remember, but when you were a baby, you must have fallen hundreds of times to try and make sure that you could walk. And you were determined because you didn't have all of this outside noise telling you you couldn't do it. You had your parents cheering you on, you had your siblings cheering you on, whatever. Everyone was telling you you can walk. And when you did, they cheered you on. And it's the same rules that should apply in business or the same rules that should apply when you're trying to be confident in a certain area. The first few times you'll struggle. But if you know that everyone else is cheering you on and you're cheering yourself on and you want to succeed and that value supersedes that fear, you'll start doing it. And once you start, you'll start being in charge of your own life. You'll start realizing that you can write your own script and you can change your own narrative because you're in complete control. The most effective way to change your habits is not to focus on what you want to achieve, it's to focus on who you want to become. It's really simple because all you have to do is decide the person that you want to be and then prove it to yourself by achieving these small wins. Now, a small win could literally be getting a camera and recording for 1 minute and just seeing how you do. And then the next day recording for 3 minutes and the next day increasing that slowly. Soon you'll find yourself having recorded a 20-minute video. And the first time, it won't be great. My first podcasts weren't great. And your identity emerges out of your habits. Every single action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. And being the best version of yourself constantly requires you to continuously edit your beliefs about yourself. I often feed myself a lot of negative affirmations. I'm not good at this. I'm rubbish at this. I should have done this. I should have done that. And what that does is just reinforce all of these negative behaviors in my mind. If I switch those and say, I wasn't the best this time, but next time I can change this so I can improve, not only does that give me a way that I can improve, but it will also help with my confidence because I know that I can change. Real habits matter not because they can get you better results, but because they can help you change and edit your beliefs about yourself. So if you start creating small habits that will alter your confidence, slowly, you'll start changing your mindset and you'll start changing your beliefs about how confident you really are. Now, one thing that has really helped to increase my confidence, and it's a really quick exercise, is to just write down a list of all the things that I'm good at. And sometimes I accompany that with a list of all my achievements. And when I think about it, for example, with my podcast, I had no idea how to edit. I had no idea how to use Final Cut Pro or iMovie. I had no idea how to find sounds and sync them and add all these subtitles. I still have so much to learn, but knowing that I never grew up with this background, I was the worst in IT, and now being able to function, for me, that's really helped my confidence because I had no idea how to do these things, but I learned. And slowly, I got better. Now, it's easy to compare yourself with other people. I'm definitely not the best video editor ever, but I know that I'm doing my best. And it's such an achievement that I've learned how to do it. And I think it's so important and has helped my confidence so much because it's made me realize I was never an expert in this field, but I've almost become someone who can actually work in this field. And for me, that's great. Now, it's really important to remind yourself how far you've come. And like I said, in any area of your life, there are going to be some things that you have achieved and you've done really well. It could be the smallest of things, but if you've learned something from scratch, you graduated with a degree, whatever it is, I'm sure so many of you would have achieved something. And it's so important to remind yourself, this is where I started and this is where I am. And the reason why you are where you are is because you didn't give up. You continuously kept going. Now, I think it's so nice and real when you see creators online who say, look, I'm new at this, I'm a little bit nervous, and I'm going to get better. I think it's so important to even share that, to say, look, I'm not the best at doing this. I've never done this video before, but look, guys, I'm just going to try. And being authentic and being yourself and sharing that journey with other people can really also help to increase your confidence. Now, this is something I have really struggled with. When someone says to me, Shivani, I'm really proud of you because of X, or you're doing really well in this, I'm always like, no, I'm not. And I put myself down. And recently I've learned how to say, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Yes, it was really difficult and I'm proud of myself. And sometimes a lot of people think that can come across as arrogant. You don't need to say to someone else, like, I'm so proud of myself, I'm amazing. You don't. But in your mind, you can say that to yourself, right? So when someone else says to you, I'm really proud of you, or you look amazing, instead of being like, no, I don't, you can just say, thanks, I really appreciate that. And in your head, be like, maybe I do look nice and maybe I should stop beating myself up. And when someone says to you, look, I love your content, instead of being like, oh yeah, it's okay, or like, yeah, thanks a lot, or genuinely say like, thank you, I really appreciate you taking the time out to listen. Because in your head, what that reminds you of is people are taking the time out to listen to you. And therefore that will help you with your confidence when you're about to film another video. Now, my final point is about how you should always ask for help. Now, I think a lot of us set ourselves up to fail because we want to be confident in one specific field, but we don't know how to do it. So, for example, with me, there's certain things like my performance planner, which now I'm like, I am not a graphic designer. I have no idea how on earth I'm going to create version 2 of my performance planner, but I'm now giving it to someone else because I know I have the confidence to set it up and sell it, but I don't have the confidence to design it again. I designed my first one, and now I want to make sure that when I release another product, it's going to be more aesthetic, it's going to be more pleasing, and it's going to be easier for people to use. And I don't have to be the best in that field to do that. I can outsource that work. I can ask someone to help me with it. And then I can focus on the area that I am confident in, which is selling it. So I would always say it's so important to ask for help and not think that you have to be confident in every area of your life. There are going to be some areas where you fly and there's going to be some areas where you need a little bit of help, and that's totally okay. And having the confidence to recognize that and do that can be really, really good. I hope this helped you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me.